Are you searching for a deeper understanding of your faith?
Inspiring Philosophy is your go-to resource for exploring the rich tapestry of Christian thought.
From biblical archaeology to philosophy of mind, we dive into the topics that matter.
Our content bridges faith and understanding, offering insights into God's existence and the reliability of the New Testament.
Join a community where faith meets reason and discover the answers you've been seeking.
Inspiring Philosophy, where faith meets understanding.
The myth held tight, every scholar zip. But one slipped up, caught on clip.
The standard narrative has holes in it.
They told me one Quran, not a single word gone. But the Sunnah manuscripts got me saying hold on. Beneath the script a shadow bleeds, the edict seep. Burned by Uthman's hand, still the smoke runs deep. Perfect preservation, that's the lie they spread. While Zurkati whispers, it's complicated. Tankirat, which one did Allah protect? Or did the best of deceivers let the versions intersect?
Narrative has holes in it.
There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book. There's some holes in this book.
Holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes in it. Narrative has holes.
Uthman gathered all the scrolls and sheets, burned the copies, erased competing beats. To unify, he chose one written script, but in that fire, true version slipped. If Allah promised his word would last, why did some pages burn? Why weren't they cast into Uthman's guard? Kept safe and whole. What truth was lost? What's left untold? And Aisha spoke with no disguise. A sheep once true, the sacred lines. Verses gone, no longer read. Missing words from what's been said. If God's word is perfect, why the missing lines? Why the silent gaps through all the times? If it's truly kept, why the torn afraid? Why do some chapters just fade away? They preach a tale that sounds complete, but history whispers in retreat. If Allah preserved each word with care, why purge the parts they couldn't bear? The cracks run deep, no place to run. The claim of truth comes undone. If verses fade and lines are gone, then who still swears he guards the Quran?
Yeah.
That was I that was funny.
That?
I love
Yeah.
all the. Did you edit that, Mike?
No, and our editor Aaron did that one. Yeah, but the song
was
is actually
funny.
linked below. I didn't come up with it. I saw it and I was like, oh, perfect. About Uthman burning all the Quran scrolls. I'm like, yeah, we can use this for some Islamic live streams. Why not? Just remind everyone that, yeah, the argument from the Quran about perfect preservation is a lie. And that was exposed by Yasser Qadi a couple years ago. Joel has no idea what we're talking about, but I will update him later. It's Islamic apologetics and the big kerfuffle that happened a couple of years ago. They used to tell us that the Quran was perfectly preserved down to the letter, all the way back to Muhammad, and then it was exposed to be an absolute lie by this Imam Yasser Qadi.
An imam
Sheikh
did
Yasser
that.
Qadi. Oh, Sheikh, sorry, Sheikh Yasser Qadi did that. Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, so he accidentally, exposed the whole narrative, and so yeah. But anyway,
I mean that they're like fundamentalist Christians who think that kind of thing too, though.
oh yeah, but this was like the standard Dawa argument for most Muslim apologists for the longest time, and then it got blown out of the water. Yeah. So anyway, welcome. This is Joel Korytko. He is our victim for today. He is going to learn about Dawa and how amazing and powerful it is.
I don't know what that word means.
Basically, it's like Islamic outreach, Islamic evangelism, apologetics, convincing people to become Muslim. Dawa, that's what they say. And one of their go-to arguments is that Muhammad is prophesied in the Bible. And we're going to be reviewing a video today from the guy we reviewed last week. What's his name? Many Prophets, One Message, in his attempt to try to desperately argue Muhammad is prophesied in the Bible. Last week, with Ridvan, the apostate prophet, we demonstrated that no, he's not in the Gospel of John. The Paraclete is not Muhammad. That was interesting. And then I was like, you know what? Let's look at their main passage in the Torah, but let's torture a poor Old Testament scholar who's going to have to deal with the utter stupidity. That's what I thought we would do today. So that's what we're going to do.
All right. I'm the whipping boy.
It's okay,
Listen.
Joel. For the last like 3 weeks, I probably lost like 5 years off my life from being exposed to this.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, my brain cells are ready to be destroyed.
His body is ready. Yeah. So yeah, well, we did this like 2 years ago with a scholar named David Schreiner, where David Wood and I just showed him a bunch of verses in the Bible and said, "What do you think of this?" He's like, "I don't see how that talks about Muhammad at all." And so we did like surprise him with the Muslim arguments. And so yeah, kind of a similar thing we're doing today. But yeah, we will dive into this. First, we got a super chat in here, a very generous one. Thank you. He says, "Did Islam start as an unorthodox Christian sect, as St. John of Damascus said about the heresy of the Ishmaels?" Also, Than, you got my email about sessionist resources. Hopefully it was not lost in the void.
I did get it. Thank you.
Yeah. There's actually a good amount of scholars that do think that Islam evolved. But so when St. John of Damascus was writing, this was not some schmuck. This was a guy that worked in the Umayyad court. I believe he was a treasurer. So he was very intimate with what they were saying. And then he went away and became a monk and wrote the heresy of the Ishmaelites. And people were like, why didn't he say the heresy of the Muslims? He said that they had 4 books and a prophet named Mahmud. The 4 books are what became Surah 2, Surah 4, Surah 5, and then another book called the Book of the Camel, which is no title for any surah in the Quran. So it's odd. And so if you read people like Stephen Shoemaker or Patricia Crone, they have argued that maybe this was one of the early stages when Islam was still sort of evolving into its current state. John of Damascus, who had been well informed as a Christian on what was going on in the court and what they were preaching, teaching, he gives us an early peek before Islam was finalized into what it became. Probably under someone like Abdul Malik, maybe even later. I mean, there's different opinions on this, but yeah, it could very well be the case that it started as like, I mean, the Quran does assume it's confirming the gospel and the prior scriptures over and over again, like a beating drum. So it seems as though it thinks it's in line with what Christianity was teaching. So you could make that kind of argument. Yeah. So, by the way, just want to give a quick out. Joel Korytko, his channel is linked in the title. So if you just click on that and subscribe, you can learn some pretty cool scholarship stuff. Please do that because he's got a small growing channel. We like to support scholars on YouTube. Please support him.
Hey, thank you. Do it now.
We're waiting. We're waiting.
What? It wasn't
me?
a gun. It wasn't the. Wait, I can't say that word, can I?
Why did you shave, Joel?
Oh yeah, that's what I thought you said. Yeah.
Oh,
I shave like once a year, and it's always a mistake every time.
It is. Yes.
But I will. But I have
think
about
you
that
look
long.
good.
My memory only goes about that far back. So.
Random question, mostly for Joel, but any of you can answer. When Dan McClellan cites a non-existent consensus, does he know it or is he just mistaken? Probably depends.
Yeah, I'd say it depends. It depends what you mean by non-existent. Like, so Dan has on certain topics. I think he could probably say there's a consensus or a weight, maybe 60-70% go more on one than another. But I think it's just it's at least what I've seen from one of the stuff I've engaged. It's often that term is used too much because what does that mean? And who is doing that kind of analysis and of what group? And I as far as I'm aware, Dan was going to do a project on consensus, but I think he might have given it up because it's too hard to do without bias. But I could be wrong there. I heard that from somebody. It's again, who are you surveying? The thing is like, consensus, what's been published recently is very much just what do people want to write on. So it's not like that's because if 5 people write the same view in 5 years, that doesn't mean the consensus has changed. It just means that they had time to do this in the last 5 years and cared about it. Maybe everybody else is on a different camp. So it's just, it's hard. It's a very slippery thing. So unless there's a real like strong, like, yes, this is what everybody thinks. That term can be a little bit difficult and problematic. So yeah, I don't know. He might think because his friends are all in a certain circle that if they all think this, and maybe he goes to certain SBL sessions that most people think that must mean it's consent. I don't know.
I'd say like sometimes he's probably right. Like when, he's debunking things like Jesus mythicism. I think sometimes he might say consensus and I'm like, well, I don't know about that. But I mean, like, depends on the topic. So, all right, Joel, you ready to get into this video? Ready to have your mind blown about this amazing prophecy of Muhammad in the Bible?
Blown.
Completely blown. You're going to be blown away by this. Let me tell you, this
Here we
is
go.
mind-boggling lies. I mean, powerful arguments, whatever. Same thing. Anyway, here we go.
The Old Testament book of Deuteronomy contains a momentous prophecy that God revealed to Moses. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. Here God pointed to a prophet whom he would raise up after Moses. Just who is this prophet to come? The immediate clue given in the prophecy is a likeness to Moses. But in what sense will they be Moses-like? The very next statement clarifies matters. God informs us that he will put his words in the prophet's mouth. So, just as Moses received revelation from God, so too will the coming prophet. Just as Moses brought divine law and a covenant for Israel to follow, so too will the coming prophet. As the theologian Franz Delitzsch explains, for all the prophets who followed Moses, their duty consists in preparing the way for a future divine revelation, whose mediator is to be the predicted prophet like Moses. Another important clue that helps us to identify the prophet like Moses is the statement that he will be from among their brothers. Note the pronoun there. Just who is this a reference to? The verses which immediately precede the prophecy make it clear. For this is what you asked of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, nor see this great fire anymore, or we will die. Here the mention of the day of assembly at Horeb is a reference to a terrifying incident in which all of the tribes of Israel were camped at a mountain and they heard the voice of God. Jill's explanation of the entire Bible confirms that Israel here is being spoken of as if it were a single person. The congregation of Israel is here represented speaking as if a single person. So, since the prophecy is addressing the whole of Israel, then it must be speaking of raising up a prophet from the brothers of the whole of Israel. This means that the prophet like Moses cannot be a reference to the Israelites themselves. Rather, the coming prophet will be raised amongst a nation that is the brother of Israel. To claim that this prophet will be raised amongst Israel would be to claim that the nation of Israel is the brother of the nation of Israel. This is as absurd as saying, I am my own brother.
You see? You never thought about that, Joel, did you? You never thought about that. You see?
I question everything. I question all of my assumptions. They're falling apart. Wow. Yeah, that was quite an argument. Yeah.
That was
Can't say that makes a lot of sense. If you read, I mean, even the whole verse for one. I mean, because in the verse they just cited, Israel's referred to in the plural at the end of the verse, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like it goes from the singular to the plural. So it's like, they're being collectivized for sure, because that happens all the time where Israel is referred to as a singular unit. But at the very end of the verse, that one, like the 18:15, it says they will listen. So it's like clearly talking about the plurality, even within the same verse. That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really
here's. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, no. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say. So like this is what he cited. Notice he started with the verse 16. It's funny. He didn't want to include verse 15, which kind of destroys the whole argument there. Verse 15, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 18, the verse they always run to, is just stating what was already said in verse 15 in less words. It's just saying it again in less words. They never want to quote that.
Yeah, so I'm just reading the Hebrew, and yeah, in 1815, it's a prophet from your midst, mikir becha. So it's like the idea, like from in this group here within you, like as in it's the vicinity right here in front of you. It's definitely not pointing outside. It's pointing as inside as you can be, like your own brothers, Israelites.
Yeah, but yeah, this is what they did.
Like, it's just so everybody knows, because people might not be aware if you haven't read Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy and elsewhere, but Deuteronomy in particular uses the idea of like your brothers for Israel all over the place, like as for Israelites. That's like that's common language in Deuteronomy, and like that in the singular as well. It's not like it's just this is a special passage. No, it's not. In 18, all over the place, Israel is in the singular. Also refers to brothers, and it's quite evidently always the brothers being Israel. So, like for example, in the kingship law, it says you have to get a king. God will choose a king from among your brothers. Again, singular. It's all singular, from your brothers, you singular brothers. That it's pretty evident there that it can't be somebody else, because at the end of the verse it says that you can't have a foreigner as your king. So it's like it would be contradictory to say that someone from outside of Israel then is referred to by brothers, because the kingship law already shows that this language is clearly referring to Israelites themselves. That makes sense?
Oh yeah, and I got some of them up here. You have like Deuteronomy 3:18. Deuteronomy 3:20, 15:7. This is all referring to Israelites. This is the verse you mentioned here, Deuteronomy 17:15. One from among your brothers.
Yeah, just so everyone knows. Yeah, set a king over you, and it's I believe in 17:15, it's singular in the Hebrew, because you in English could be y'all, plural you, or you, right, as in just one person, you. Certainly, you'll set upon you a king which you'll choose, your God. Yes, it's singular. Yeah, from the midst of your brothers. Yeah, so same thing.
Yeah. Pretty bad. You also have Deuteronomy 24:14. You shall not oppress a hired worker who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your brothers or one of the sojourns. So you see a contrast here. Brothers refers to Israelites. Sojourns refers to non-Israelites. And yeah, they don't want to quote this kind of stuff. It's interesting. The only time brothers in Deuteronomy refers to non-Israelites, it's qualified. It says the people of Esau. So if it is going to refer to non-Israelites, it's specifically qualified, and it's only ever said of the people of Esau. It's never referred to the Ishmaelites, any of the children of Abraham. This is it. But again, it's very clearly in the immediate context from among you, and he quoted John Gill, but I mean, John Gill, he basically agrees. Did he get to John Gill yet, or am I jumping ahead? No, I think he did.
I think he did. Yeah, he cited two things. He cited Delitzsch, like I think maybe from Keel and Delitzsch, like it's a commentary from like the 1800s, I believe.
Outdated.
Yeah, so no one really uses that in any argumentation today. And then the other one was Gill, which I think is from the 1700s. So there's no current scholarship or even current thought being represented here with that. Not that these and just to be clear, everybody, that he didn't cite them agreeing with his interpretation. He was just using that for just little factoids for this overall argument that he's making.
Yeah. You'll see this with the Muslim apologists. They will fish for something they can use to help them. And they'll take like what John Gill says about like Deuteronomy 18:16, but they won't take what he says about Deuteronomy 18:18. And you're just kind of looking at him going like, first of all, why are you using outdated scholarship? And also like, he doesn't agree with you. But I mean, even at the end of the day, the earliest commentator on this, on what God says in 18:18 is what Moses says in 18:15. It's referring to an Israelite, the prophet or prophets, because some different interpretations will refer to like a line of prophets, but it has to be from among the Israelites. But Muslims will jump on this phrase here from among their brothers, ignore the prior context, and use it has to be a non-Israelite, and that's Muhammad. You see?
Yeah, that does not
Would-
work at all with the text.
Joel,
Unfortunately,
because I'm looking at the Hebrew in verse 15,
Yep.
even, and I'll probably butcher the pronunciation here. The Kereb.
yeah. From
Is it-
Karev,
that,
yeah.
that seems to be
Nick
inner parts
Here, Becha.
inside
Yep.
of stuff like that. So wouldn't
That's
even
what I was
that be
saying
just a
earlier.
Okay, I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what I was saying earlier is that it literally says from within your midst, and so it's geographically locating, or I mean conceptually locating within the Israelite people group.
Inside. Yeah.
As pretty much as strongly as you can. That it's there within them. Yeah,
All right. So you're not convinced of that dawa, unfortunately.
I have yet to be convinced by that one in particular. Yeah, that
Well,
doesn't make a lot of sense.
maybe his other arguments will get you, because man, I don't know about this. Maybe this one will get you.
Deuteronomy further establishes the fact that the prophet like Moses cannot be an Israelite. No prophet ever rose again in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew with such great intimacy.
Just wanted to stop it there. Does he not realize, like, when this verse was written, like, Israelites still kind of existed after that? It's just the author is saying, at this point, when I'm writing this, hasn't happened, but it will.
Yeah,
That's not a prophecy. That's not. It's.
yeah.
He said, like, it can't be an Israelite because the author said, like, it hadn't happened, and there was all the Israelites around him. Well, duh. I mean, but that doesn't mean it can't be a future Israelite. And we already showed by necessity it has to be a future Israelite when the author was writing.
Well, I mean, even keep the verse up for a sec. So yeah, I mean, I think in their favor would be that it's a confusing verse and there's a lot of literature written on it. What's going on? Why is it that there's? Pardon me?
Muslim apologetics thrives in the confusing verses. They thrive there.
Okay, yeah. And it is like, it's like, why is it okay? There's going to be a prophet like me, and then there wasn't a prophet like him up at least until the point of writing. And so, yeah, I mean, there's like some more critical scholarship would say that this is an interpolation later on, or something added into the text later on, Deuteronomy 34:10. I don't think that's necessary. But really all it could be saying, and how the narrative is setting things up, is that Moses says, yeah, okay, there's prophets like me. No one actually was ever like on the same scale as Moses, but there are still prophets in the Mosaic succession of prophets, so to speak. And so like the books of like the Kings, really like what they typically call like the Deuteronomic history, like Joshua on, but to Second Kings. But like you see people who take on like the mantle of Moses and take on this like prophetic role. So I don't think that Deuteronomy 18 is necessarily even saying there's just one prophet who's in the future. It's very possible that it's pointing forward to people in the succession line of Moses as prophets, as authoritative law enforcing prophets, so to speak. But no one ever actually got on par or up to the same level as Moses. A good book that was just written on this, De Jong, Jong, I think, wrote a whole, dissertation in the journal, in supplements to the Journal of the Study of Judaism, which is actually the same series I wrote in for my monograph. Yeah, so there's a lot to this. So sure, it's a bit confusing, but it makes perfect sense also. It can make good sense by itself in its context that it's just talking about prophets who are going to come down the line after, or perhaps even a final prophet. And we'll get there, I think, if we talk about Jesus and how people interpret this in the Second Temple period as well.
Yes, but they all have to be Israelites. Like that's pretty clear.
Yeah, it absolutely is clear that it's a prophet from Israel, within Israel. Yeah. Even that last verse says no prophet in Israel. Like again, it's emphasizing this idea of it's within the people. Within the people we're talking about, from within. Yeah.
There it is, in Israel. I do want to point out one thing he said, like didn't know God with such intimacy. The literal reading is face to face, and this is a big problem. I have to, when it gets to Muslim apologists, the da'i, when they're doing this dawah, they will cherry pick translations. They will go through, like if you actually just go through and look, like here I just highlighted them all. Just Every translation is saying face to face, except for one. It's the International Standard Version up here in the top corner. And he was like, well, that we can use that one. Why are they going with that one? Well, because Moses spoke to God face to face, not like literally seeing his face, but like he was there. God was speaking to him through the pillar of cloud, according to Deuteronomy. Muhammad never spoke to Allah. Allah in Islam is so transcendent. He has to go through an intermediary, which is Jibril or Gabriel. So Muhammad got all his revelations from Gabriel. So he didn't actually speak to Allah face to face the way Moses is presented as speaking to God in the tabernacle face to face. So they had to sort of like, well, we can't actually render it that way. Let's just take this, and that way we can make it fit Muhammad. This is a reoccurring problem you get with Muslim apologists where they would do this. Well, I remember one time I saw a Muslim just go through and take like the Dewey Reams translation, like the one that was before the King James. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But as you can see, like Muhammad doesn't even fit this description because he didn't know God in the way that that Moses did, face to face, kind of talking with him directly. He had to go through an angel. Meanwhile, Jesus is presented in the Gospel of John as someone who did know God in a very intimate way, in the way that Moses would have known him. No one has ever seen God. God, the only son who is at the Father's side, he has made him known. Now, it doesn't use the direct phrase face to face, but the implication is still there. So fits with John. You're talking about Jesus. It doesn't actually fit. This verse does not fit with Muhammad because of what is in Islamic tradition and theology.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the question of like, what does that even mean to be speaking to someone face? Or it doesn't actually say speak; it says know. The Lord knew him face to face. So
yes,
yeah, it could be a matter of because it's, again, not talking about direct speech, which you could argue maybe God did speak directly with Moses in a face to face manner in the tabernacle or something like that. But this says knew face to face, and then the next verse actually kind of explicates that, and it says with respect to all the signs and the wonders which he Yahweh sent to do in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land. So it really seems to be defining the intimacy and the kind of like power of the relationship with respect to what Moses did, not necessarily to Moses seeing the face of God, so to speak. Yeah,
That's a good point.
How
Real
often
quick,
does-
Go ahead.
I was just going
Go
to
ahead.
ask Joel, do you know how often that phrase happens in the Hebrew Bible?
I don't off the top of my head, but if you move to a comment, I can quickly look.
Yeah, so
I'm
I'll do some
looking it
super
up.
chats.
Go
I'll do some
ahead.
super chats while you do that. I don't think you guys have to address them. What's the idealist view of intuition? It seems at times to be uncannily accurate. Should we disregard it, or can it be used in decision making? Okay, intuition in philosophy is going to be defined differently. You have in different fields of philosophy and in different philosophers in those fields, and you have different understandings. You have some philosophers that take a very thin definition of intuition, some take a very thick definition, and it's a whole mess. It depends on who you're talking or what you're taking. If I'm talking about intuitions, generally metaphysically speaking, I'm talking about it more broadly, and it can include a lot more. If I'm talking about intuitions and moral realism, it's very specific. Meta ethics, when I'm arguing for moral realism, it's a very specific definition that Ruth Schaefer Landau uses, which has nothing to do with idealism. So I honestly don't know what you mean, because I'm going back to one of my seminars when I was getting my master's, and I'm just thinking of like all the definitions of intuition we had to study in this one class, and it's a minefield. So different idealists will have different definitions of intuition depending on what field they're working in. So that's a whole thing. I'll do this super chat and then jump back to you guys. But IP, have you considered that you are blind to the truth about Muhammad in the Bible because you celebrate Christmas and Easter, which are pagan, and therefore have corrupted your minds? You see? Yes, I have not considered that. Obviously, when I put presents under a tree and hide eggs for my daughter, it's corrupting my mind, and now I can't see Muhammad in the Bible. That's, it's the way you wrote it. It could very well have been a Dawa argument. I mean, like, these could be that bad, unfortunately. So, yeah, totally get where you're coming from. So,
yeah, I looked up the face to face thing. Knowing face to face, to know someone face to face, only seems to occur there.
Yeah.
In Deuteronomy, and then there's speaking face to face, which Moses does in Exodus, and seeing face to face. So it seems to be just like an intimate, up close encounter kind of thing. I'm not sure if knowing face to face is the same thing as seeing face to face.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what.
Or speaking face to face, I should say, because even and then seeing and speaking might even be a little bit different. Yep.
Yeah, that's the question I'm having now, which is just what explains the difference between knowing, speaking, and seeing. Why are we choosing those words in different contexts now? But that's beyond this stream. Sorry.
Yeah, that's beyond the stream. But I mean, a lot of it is tabernacle, is sacred space stuff, especially with like Jacob seeing God face to face and his life being spared, because the idea is that you cannot see the face of God and live in the tabernacle, right? So you cannot enter the Holy of Holies lest you die. Yet Jacob has this encounter where he does enter that place where God's face is. So what everybody is missing, and I'm not explaining well here, is that in Exodus, when it talks about the tabernacle, it said when God says, "I will go with you," like in Exodus 33, it says, "My face will go with you." It's his face is his full presence. It's like this non-mediated, like full orbed expression of his presence. And so when Jacob says like, "I'm spared, I saw God face to face and my life was spared," or shall not see my face and live, it's all getting on this idea of you can't be in that unmediated presence of God unless there are certain parameters met, right? Because you can enter in at certain points and times, right? And very infrequently. So it's a special thing, even if it's a possible thing through ritual, which you find in Leviticus.
Jay Pendragon says, "I thought the whole Muhammad in the Bible was a dead topic." No, not for Muslims. And they can't. It cannot be a dead topic. And I wanted to show this.
Have it.
Yeah, here's why. Surah 7:157 says, "They are the ones who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet whose description they find in their Torah and the gospel." And then Surah 61:6 says that Jesus spoke of a messenger after him whose name will be Ahmed. And so we covered that last week on Monday with AP, and where they tried to say the Paraclete is a bad translation of the name Ahmed. Yes, seriously, they try that. And so this is why. Because if they don't find Muhammad in the Torah and the Gospel, Surah 7:157 is wrong, therefore Islam is false. So they can't give up this argument without giving up Islam.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this is... Their entire religion hinges on finding Muhammad in the Torah and the Gospel. And they can't because it's just a bad argument. And this is one of the many reasons we know Islam is false. And this is the point I have made before. But yeah, this is what they do. And this is why this will never be a dead topic.
How do they
I know your brain's breaking.
How do they do this? But then also in this, like, in one side of their mouth, they're like, "Oh, Muhammad's prophesied in the Bible," but then in the other side of their mouth, they're like, "Oh, but the Bible's been corrupted."
Than, stop thinking. We're talking about dawah here. You don't think when you do dawah, you just do. You do. You tell. Look, here's what you do. When you're doing dawah on the street as a Muslim apologist, you say the Bible's corrupted, and then in the next person you talk to, you tell them that you can find Muhammad in there, and then you go back and say, "Yeah, but that Bible's corrupted. Don't use it." But you can also find Muhammad in there, but it's been corrupted, so don't use it. But use it when you want to look for Muhammad. Listen, I have gone through the reasoning and there's the cognitive dissonance will cause your brain to collapse. Just set it aside. Okay. You're not going to understand it because it doesn't make sense.
That was not a fake eye twitch. My eye literally just twitched.
Yes, this is dawah. I know. These same people will tell us the Bible's corrupted, and then they'll be like, "Yes, but this word in Deuteronomy has to be referencing to Muhammad. This very specific word." It's like, wait a minute. I thought you said this was corrupted. How can we trust specifics here? It's that bad.
Unless they say it's just those things that aren't corrupted, but I'm not sure where that's coming from.
Well, they know those parts aren't corrupted because they agree with the Quran, and therefore they can know those parts aren't. You see how that works? Yeah.
It's circular.
You start with the axiom: Islam is true. Okay.
Yeah. See, it's arguing in a circle. Tell every day. But let's get back to the video because this is going to get worse.
The Jewish commentary, Or Hashem on Deuteronomy, understood this statement in the sense of both the past and future. As of the time when these words were written, no other comparable prophet had arisen. It also means that no comparable prophet would arise in the future either.
What?
In light of this,
I don't understand how he can make that leap in that commentary. What do you mean no prophet like that's going to rise in the future? Like,
yeah, it doesn't follow. It's an interpretation of a Jewish commentator. Again, so everybody knows, we're not talking about. They're not citing scholarship here. That seems to be a rabbinic source. I don't have time to look it up. But it's some sort of Jewish commentator from, looks like a while ago, the way that it was packaged. So yeah, it's kind of irrelevant. That's not no people don't. That's not an obvious conclusion from this text, that there would be no other prophet or line of prophets or prophet like Moses. Yeah.
Interpreting the prophet like Moses as a reference to an Israelite causes a contradiction with this later passage in the book of Deuteronomy.
What?
The
this is what I just
Study Bible.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, like I just said, it depends how we take these verses, and there's a rich interpretive history. You can, like I said, go to that book by DeYoung. There are different ways it's understood, and within the Hebrew Bible itself, it appears that there is a prophetic succession going on after Moses, despite them not maybe getting to the same level as Moses. So not on par, but yeah, I don't think that it follows what they're saying.
Acknowledges this problem when the prophet like Moses is taken as a reference to an Israelite.
Whoa,
Note
stop.
the discrepancy between the.
No, I don't have that Jewish Study Bible in front of me, but I could promise you that it wouldn't be talking about ethnicity. Like he just said that they're claiming that, it's about being in Israel. Like the problem is that they're in Israel. That's what they just said. I think that's not.
Jewish Study
Let me just play it again.
Jewish Study Bible.
Yeah, let me just play it again.
Acknowledges this problem when the prophet like Moses is taken as a reference to an Israelite.
As a reference to an Israelite. So they're saying you can't be an Israelite specifically. That's the problem. It's like, well, no, I doubt that Jewish Study Bible is saying that it must be somebody who's not an Israelite. I highly doubt that that's the point they're making. I don't have it in front of me though.
Well, what it makes sense with Deuteronomy is we already shown the phrase from among your brothers means, or their brothers means, an Israelite. Like this is just standard when it comes to Deuteronomy.
Yeah, so they're noting the discrepancy, which I already said, which how you interpret these verses together. If you do you omit one?
I don't.
In any, but that's all they're noting, is that there's a discrepancy here. It's not about ethnicity, though.
Yeah.
Perspective of this verse and the divine promise to Moses that the line of prophetic succession will continue in the future. When the prophet like Moses is understood as a reference to a Gentile, i.e. a non-Jew, then all these problems disappear and there is perfect harmony within the book of Deuteronomy.
Joe, do you see how
we're manufacturing a problem that Islam solves?
This
They've
is how they lie.
A problem. Yeah, they've created a problem, which we've picked apart now up to here, saying none of that actually holds. But if that problem did hold, then okay, you have this thing. But none of that actually holds, so you don't need to solve this.
But like, look, he's like, we've got now perfect harmony in the book of Deuteronomy if we just ignore the very verse we're not citing, Deuteronomy 18:15 and Deuteronomy 17:15, and what's in Deuteronomy 24. Like, we have perfect harmony. We just cut out all the verses that show that this would create blatant contradictions. This is dawah, folks. This is dawah.
However, this cannot be a reference to just any Gentile nation, as the words from among their brothers indicate a people who are ethnically closely related to the Israelites. According to Hebrew dictionaries, the Hebrew word for brother that is used in the prophecy, ach, includes the meaning half-brother or relative. With this in mind, brother can refer to Gentile peoples such as the Ishmaelites and Edomites, who all trace their lineage back to Abraham and are therefore ancestrally closely related to the Israelites. Another important question that will help us to determine the identity of this prophet like Moses is the timeline when he will be sent. The New Testament informs us, now this was John's testimony when the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He confessed freely, I am not the Messiah. They asked him, then who are you? Are you Elijah? He said, I am not. Are you the prophet? He answered, no. Note the three questions asked of John the Baptist by the Jewish priests and Levites. Firstly, is he the Messiah? Secondly, is he Elijah? Thirdly, is he the prophet? Here, the mention of the prophet is a reference to the prophet like Moses in Deuteronomy. This exchange between John and the priests and Levites makes it clear that the Messiah, Elijah, and the prophet like Moses refer to three distinct people as they were presented in the form of three separate questions. Muslims and Christians all agree that Jesus is the Messiah, in which case Jesus cannot be either Elijah or the prophet like Moses, as they represent different people. This also indicates that during the time of Jesus, the prophet like Moses had not yet emerged, as the Jewish priests and Levites were still awaiting his arrival. This means that he must be sent at a time after Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot there.
There's a lot
yeah.
of crap there.
I mean, just like very, very basic. This person is citing what the priests and Levites are saying in a story, as though that is the authoritative teaching of what this text is saying. Like the author of the Gospel of John is then saying that these categories should be parsed in this way, which is not at all evident because it's a crowd saying it. It's like if the crowd said, "Hey, should we crucify Jesus?" It's like, should we agree with that statement the crowd is making? These characters in the story. Well, no, you shouldn't just assume that they're categorizing things correctly. So that's already a problem, right? The text doesn't say, it doesn't have Jesus saying, "I am the prophet." I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that it doesn't have that. They're citing the crowds and assuming that means that there's that they're getting it right. And like even like I was saying in the Second Temple period, this verse is being interpreted in many different ways. So I think it's in the Maccabees. It talks about the prophet being fulfilled, like that like this idea of the prophet like Moses gets fulfilled in their time as well, in like a political leader, and not necessarily like an eschatological figure who totally overcomes and changes the world or something like that. So again, there are different ways people were understanding these, as we know, like from the Dead Sea Scrolls, that there are different visions of messiahs, multiple, singular, like there's all sorts of stuff going on in this world. So that's all in the background. And like they could, for all I know, I was listening, like, are you Elijah? No. Well, maybe they thought, oh, well, he didn't realize I'm referring to the prophet, and then maybe they're even the same thing in the crowd's mind, right? Like, maybe they all are. Maybe they're all just different monikers, and they're trying to figure out which one will get you to say. Like, I think that's just off the top of my head, but like, it's not a good way to argue.
Here's a good point. Giant Daily C, who've been on the channel before, go subscribe to them. They point out this, like, if it was just well known the prophet was not to be an Israelite, why are they going and asking John, who is a Israelite? He's a Jew. Like, they should have been like, they should never have asked that, because according to Muslim apologists, he's supposed to be a non-Israelite just from what we saw in Deuteronomy. But these guys go and they go, "Hey, John, could you be the prophet?" Why didn't John go, "No, guys, come on, that's supposed to be a non-Israelite. We know that." No, it was understood in their minds that it's supposed to be an Israelite. So this actually helps refute their point. It doesn't actually help. And again, as you pointed out, this is not the theology of the author of the Gospel of John himself. He's not actually saying the opponents of John the Baptist or the opponents of Jesus are always right. So it's odd that's who they want to go to.
Yeah, it's not a good place to argue from.
Do they talk about John 1:45 where Philip found it? Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yeah. This verse, yeah. No, yeah. Just a couple verses later, Philip, who is a follower of Jesus, would be an authority in the church, says, we found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth. So we have him being identified as the prophet. You have people.
Well, I mean, is it? This is indeed the prophet. Okay, so yeah, later on in John, this is the prophet who's going to come into the world.
John
that's coming
6:14, 7:40. These is crowds, so this is not definitive. I'll give you that. You just have these. However, we do have more allusions here. So John 5:46, Jesus says, "If you would have believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me." And then we have what I think is much more clear. Jesus constantly alludes to Deuteronomy 18:18. So in John 12:49-50, he says, "The Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment. what to say and what to speak. And then he goes on to say, I say as the Father has told me. This alludes back to Deuteronomy 18:18, where it says, I will put my words in his mouth and he shall speak to them all that I command. John 17:16, my teaching is not mine, but his who sent me. John 8:28. Okay. He says, I do nothing on my own authority, but speak just as the Father taught me. Then you have John 15:15 in the Paraclete passage that the surrounding context talks about, that Muslims like to say that's about Muhammad. They ignore the fact there's another allusion here. He says, I have not called you friends, for all that I have heard from the Father, I have made known to you. Another allusion. John 17:8, another passage Muslims like to quote because of verse 3, but they miss the allusion as well. For I have given them the words that you gave me. So again, John is constantly pointing out Jesus alludes back about how Deuteronomy 18:18 has God saying, I will put my words in his mouth and he shall speak to them all that I've commanded. Then, of course, it's a different book, but in Acts 3:19, you have Peter preaching, and he explicitly says that Deuteronomy 18 is about Jesus. He says, repent therefore and turn back, that your sins may be blotted out, that times of refreshing may come from the presence of the Lord, that he may send the Christ appointed for you, Jesus, whom heaven must receive until the time for restoring all the things about which God spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets long ago. Moses said, the Lord God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brothers. You shall listen to him in whatever he tells you. So at the end of the day, for the New Testament authors, Acts and John, the prophet that Moses spoke of, who knew God face to face, is Jesus. It's not, they're not waiting for him. So Muslims will quote this lovely verse here, John 1:21, and then ignore the rest of John, ignore the rest of the New Testament, because they desperately need it to be about Muhammad, when that you would never get that implication if you jump from beginning to end.
Do we lose? Oh, it looks like
Mike's
you're
breaking up
coming
a
back.
bit here. Yeah. I
I'm here.
mean, yeah. Hey, yeah. I think that it's plausible that the Gospel of John and Acts were taking that verse in like an eschatological sense, as like a final. There is a final one who does get to the same level of Moses, for sure. In the Acts one, the next kind of verses after that do talk about like the succession of prophets. So it could be that it's doing both. It's in verse 24, and indeed all the prophets from Samuel and all those who followed him have spoken about and proclaimed these days. You are the sons of the prophets, blah, 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 blah. So in other words, like it's possible that he's saying, yeah, like we have this promise of continual prophets, these prophets coming, and Jesus is now kind of the culmination of prophets, not necessarily saying that there's the prophet prophesied in Deuteronomy 18 and no one else. There are no other prophets that are the prophet. But anyways, I'm nitpicking.
What would what would be one of the counters here, especially if you like brought up Matthew's gospel and how Matthew has this new Moses motif?
Yeah, it definitely does. Yes,
as like an evidential point in favor for the reading that Jesus is the new Moses, the prophet that Deuteronomy speaks about. Has this ever happened, Mike? And what is the response
From Muslims?
Yeah,
they don't have a response.
I'm just curious to know what it would be.
They would say,
would
well,
they just deny the new Moses motifs?
They would say, well, that's been corrupted, Than. You can't trust that.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew's pretty strong on that. Like the five blocks of teaching, the Sermon on the Mountain, where he gives the instruction that reinterprets the Torah, like Moses' Torah on Mount Sinai. Yeah.
No, guys, that's been corrupted. What are you talking about? That can't be right, because it doesn't predict Muhammad. If it predicted Muhammad in their minds and their twisted understanding of the scriptures, then it would not be corrupted.
I don't like this.
This is what we do. This is what we've been dealing with. No, no, of course, fair. That's a good one. This is Dawa. This is what we do.
This is like a whole. So just so everyone knows, I have no familiarity with this world of Islamic apologetics. I don't watch any of Mike's and Than's videos on this. I have no idea.
I'm not in this world either, Joel. Like, Mike just basically like took me to Niagara Falls of Islamic apologetics and said, "Hey, we're taking off those floaties too," and just shoved me in.
Wow. Yeah. This seems like a whole world.
But what is the
It is.
analogy you used last time? Like you were getting hit by like an octopus, it was causing like no damage or something.
Oh yeah, I don't know, dude. Sometimes I just say stuff, Mike. I don't remember what I
Yeah.
what I said. I think I said I feel like I'm getting attacked by an octopus, but like the arms are
So
just
weak.
so weak that it doesn't actually hurt. It's just more annoying, and I don't know where to go. Like, which
Yeah,
arm do I
that's-
grab first? Like,
That was my thought when I first started dealing with Muslims and their arguments, Muhammad's in the Bible. I was like, do I even have to respond? Because this is just that dumb. I mean, like, it's that bad. Hey, IP and fantasy. I was what is going on
Fantasy?
with these super chats? Have you heard of Dr. Nathan Jacobs? I think he'd be an interesting guest if you can have him on. We have not. We'll look into it. Thank you for that recommendation. Fan, just as a warning, these Muslim arguments get worse once you thought it was, and once you thought it was bad, you find something worse. That is true. That is definitely true. That is a real problem I have found.
yeah, this is
When
why
you
I'm not
think-
actively going out of my way to find more.
No.
I'm just letting
Joel
my-
brought us in a super chat. Can't wait for the next desperate Dawa video titled "Finding Al-Zut in the Bible."
Yeah, that would be quite the thing. How did I bring this in?
What? Because apparently you've got dirty fans over there that are bringing up the Muhammad and the men of the Al-Zut. How dare you? How dare you?
How dare I? How dare I?
I need to stop watching anything related to Dawa. I always get a headache. Yeah, it's that bad. As you see, I mean, we saw last week with John 14-16 with them trying to find the Paraclete be the name Ahmed. It gets that bad. I don't know what to tell you guys. But it needs exposed because I mean, people fall for this crap.
Yeah.
Another point to consider that will further help us to identify the prophet like Moses are his achievements. There is a related prophecy in the book of Exodus which informs us, I am sending a messenger before you to keep you in the way and to bring you to the place which I have prepared. And I have set your border from the Red Sea to the river, for I give into your hand the inhabitants of the land, and you have cast them out from before you. In this prophecy, God told Moses that he would grant the Israelites a land whose borders will stretch from the Red Sea in Egypt all the way to the river Euphrates in modern-day Iraq, which includes the Holy Land. The Israelites are also said to cast out the previous inhabitants of these lands, implying some kind of conflict. This prophecy was ultimately never fulfilled by Moses during his lifetime because God became angry at the sins of the Israelites, and as a punishment, they were denied the land that was promised to them. This unfulfilled prophecy in Exodus is actually linked to the prophet like Moses from Deuteronomy. Logically speaking, since Moses was unable to complete this mission of acquiring the land, it makes sense that the one who would fulfill the task is the coming prophet like Moses. There are, in fact, versions of the Old Testament that make this link explicit. The Samaritan Torah, for example, contains an expanded version of the book of Exodus, which directly mentions the prophet like Moses.
Hold on.
In
Let me
chapter
just play that.
20.
Let me play that again. Okay, we're in it. He's like, it's directly linked, guys. Directly linked. So Exodus 23 is directly linked to the prophecy in Deuteronomy 18 because in the Samaritan Pentateuch, watch the connection.
Book of Exodus, which directly mentions the prophet like Moses.
It goes 3 chapters earlier. Therefore,
Yeah, and
You
also it's
see?
not the same language. Yeah, that makes no sense because you mentioned if a character is mentioned 3 chapters earlier, it has no bearing on the fact that something later, which does not use the same language at all, is somehow supposed to be the same character. That doesn't make sense.
this is what they do. It's directly linked because the Samaritan Pentateuch, 3 chapters earlier, mentions this verse, and therefore, I mean, obviously, they're linked, even though the context is completely different. I also want to do what I did last week when we saw him quote mining John. So same thing here. So Let me put up my John slide. So as I noted last week, let's see here. Are these the right slides? Did I put the right ones up? Yeah. So this is what I wanted to put up. So like last week, I had to point out like he was like leaving out like entire sections of John, He did the same thing with the assumption of Moses to try to make the assumption of Moses say that it says Moses is the Holy Spirit, which it doesn't if you just read it in context, but it's same kind of thing here. So he's doing it kind of here as well to try to make this that he can try to tie this to Muhammad. This is the text he put up on the screen. Okay. Looks okay there, but I mean, what is he leaving out? Oh, he's leaving out a lot, like a lot. And this cannot be fulfilled by a future prophet like Muhammad for a number of reasons. So you see, I've underlined stuff. I'm going to make it bigger so we can see it more. So when it's talking about the messenger, okay, notice again, he's not using the ISV like he used earlier. Now he's using the LSV because, again, they jump around between different translations to fit the narrative they want. But I mean, this messenger really looks like he's divine in the passage. It says, "For my name is in him," or in the LSV, it's in his heart. And it says, "My messenger goes before you and has brought you to the Amorite and the Hittite and the Perizzite and the Canaanite, the Hivite and the Jebusite. I've cut them off." Okay, this could only have been fulfilled in the time.
That's a terrible translation. What translation is this?
This is the LSV, so literal standard version.
I don't know why I did past tense. I have cut them off. Like this is all talking about a future thing that's going to be happen. Has brought you to the Amorite. That's a bad translation of how the Katal verbs work here.
I was thinking. I was thinking the same. I'm glad you confirmed it, but I was just using what they were putting up because they don't want it to say angel. This is why they use this one, because typically you'll see it's translated as "I will send my angel before you," and they wanted it to say messenger, so they could say that's about Moses and then Muhammad, because Muhammad was just a messenger. So you see how they're playing fast and loose with what they do here with the translation.
Yeah. And who this messenger is admittedly not the clearest thing in the world, but most would probably land in one of two camps. Either it's an angel, like a divine emissary of God and Yahweh, or it is Yahweh in an angelic or messenger form, like a compressed Yahweh or a hidden Yahweh or something like that. I think those are typical options. There are also people do think that it could be a human who is the messenger. I have seen that in the literature, but generally speaking, it's we're talking about an angelic or divine, capital D divine person doing this.
Yeah, and this is one of the key verses that people would use to point that out, because it says it has that like that two powers in heaven language. And it says, "And you have served your God Yahweh, and He has blessed your bread and your water."
He will bless your bread.
He
will turn aside sickness. Yeah.
And so it's like
I can't stand this translation. Sucks.
It does suck. Yes. Trust me. You will find the Dai, they will fish for translations they can use. But I mean, like, again, this is talking about when the Israelites went and inherited the land, and we can see the exact people group that kicked out. These people groups didn't exist in the time of Muhammad. So it cannot be referring to this being fulfilled by a later prophet. And again, this isn't referring to like something like it's just so mind-boggling, I guess, what they do with this.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding the argument a little bit right here, but like, okay, so if they're right that this Deuteronomy passage about the prophet like Moses coming is not about Jesus or something like that, right? Because they argued that Moses failed, right? They didn't go into the promised land. But then what are they going to do with like Joshua?
Yeah.
Than, you don't know how Muslim apologetics works. That's not how Dawah works. You don't talk about Joshua.
I hate that this is the answer every single time.
Yeah.
Listen, he's not bringing up Joshua, because if he brought up Joshua, Joshua would have fulfilled this, and we can't have that.
Well, I mean,
it's got to be about Muhammad.
They could argue against you there. They could say that Joshua never took all the way to the Euphrates or to Egypt,
say
so that they didn't fully get it. However, I actually thought of a verse. Can I share my screen?
Yep.
Or actually, can you put verses up, or what's easier to do? I can just share my
Whatever
screen.
you want to do.
Sure.
Yeah, you just share your screen.
Is it the little this thing?
Plus at the bottom.
Share,
the
share
plus
screen.
at the
Yeah.
bottom.
Okay. Oh, why isn't it? It won't let me share that app in particular. Weird.
Freaking
What app?
Joel, man.
It's Logos.
I can share Logos.
All right. Well, you
Sure.
guys do that. I'm going to do is get that figured out and get it on the screen. I'm going to do super chats. Steve says, is there evidence that Muhammad visited churches? I believe there are some hadith that say he did, but those are like around 200 years after he lived.
I got it.
They're
You got it? Okay.
incredibly unreliable. So I don't think I quite honestly, I'll use the hadith in terms of polemics because Muslims think they're accurate and reliable. But I from an historical perspective, think most of the hadith, most of the Sirah is just going to be incredibly unreliable, as Joshua Little points out in his dissertation. So no, I don't think there is good evidence. Maybe, but there's just not that much good evidence. So yeah. But anyway, let's check out Patricia Crone, check out Stephen Shoemaker, Robert Hoyland, some good scholars on that. So anyway, here you go, Joel.
So sorry for the messy screen here.
Yes, I knew you were going to Solomon. Yes.
Yeah. So it says Solomon was ruling over all the kingdoms from the river to the land of the Philistines and up to the border of Egypt. We're bringing tribute and we're serving Solomon all the days of his life. That's all I wanted to bring up this verse here because that's pretty important. That actually is fulfilled by a king, which it doesn't say that it's specifically the prophet who's going to do this. Again, we've already established that. It just says that the land will reach those heights. And so in Solomon's reign here, it is stating that those heights had been reached. So to say that it never happened, well, the text does say it in fact happened.
Your logos workflow looks just like mine.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah.
I can unshare my screen now.
Yeah. I know. I was going to bring up Solomon, so I'm glad you did because it's if you read the scriptures, this is basically talking about the borders of Solomon and what he's referring to. So yeah, it doesn't work. So, I have a super chat here, a very generous one I want to read. It's $50 that came in, so I will prioritize the bigger super chats because they do help support the channel more. Miro says, I will be attending my first divine liturgy this Sunday. Thank you, IP, for your work on the resurrection and the gospels. Glory to Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Are you just to be clear, Miro, are you saying that you just became a Christian and this is our videos helped you get there? And because that would be amazing to hear. If that's would be great praise report. We would love to thank God for that. Just want to, if you could just drop a regular comment. I just was curious if you're saying that, yes. Yeah, that's just really cool to hear. Excellent. Glad you're going to Divine Liturgy. I hope you please get involved in a good church and a local community that can help you grow. That's very, very important for growing in your faith and everything. So thank you so much for the very generous super chat. We're glad you enjoyed the videos for sure. And we got a lot more good ones to come. So let's get back to this video because it's just going to get more wild.
This prophecy in the book of Exodus is expanded upon further in the book of Malachi. Look, I am sending my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. Then the Lord you are seeking will suddenly come to his temple. The messenger of the covenant, whom you look for so eagerly, is surely coming. We know that Malachi here is referencing the same prophecy from Exodus because of the words, look, I am sending my messenger, and he will prepare the way before me. Also note Malachi's words about the coming messenger. He is said to suddenly come to the temple. So, not only will the prophet like Moses acquire land from Egypt to modern-day Iraq, but he will also make a sudden appearance at the temple in the Holy Land.
And that's why it can't be Muhammad, because in his time, there was no temple.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there wasn't any. I guess you could argue for some sort of other temple. I guess his temple. I guess.
Nope. Nope, he's going to argue he went to the Temple Mount. That's in Islam. This is called the night journey, Joel. I think it's like 621. Muhammad was sleeping, and then a magic donkey monster showed up at his window. He got on the magic donkey monster, went to Jerusalem, and then went up to the heavens and met with prophets and Jesus and all this stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
you know that, did you? Now you know about the night journey. I hope you learned something today.
I've learned it. Thank you. Thank you for enlightening me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
like,
I could say a couple things even just about what he just did with Malachi. He's just assuming
please.
that like there's the same prophet, like the same statement in Exodus 23, and what went on there is also it's just copied and pasted to here in Malachi, which I just don't think that's the case, because Malachi is just riffing on earlier Exodus language, right?
Yeah.
So we see Isaiah do this too, where he'll take language from the story of Exodus and say, hey, there's a new Exodus coming, like a new thing, using the same ideas and themes as before. And it's the same thing here. The idea of I send my messenger. Yes, it is referencing Exodus 23, but it doesn't mean it's taking that context and just making that exactly one-to-one applicable. Rather, it's taking those themes and saying a new Exodus is happening now. A new thing's going to happen. Just like Isaiah says, now Malachi is also saying. So you can't just one-to-one say prophecy. That's just not disciplined interpretation.
Yeah, well said. We did hear from Miro again. He says, recently came to the faith, been going to Protestant churches, but this is my first time going to Eastern Orthodoxy. Your videos helped me with doubts that I had. That is excellent to hear. That's why we do this. It's always good to hear that kind of stuff. It's always good to know that
Christianity is based. Christianity is based.
Is that Alex?
Right.
It's Alex
Yeah.
O'Connor.
Oh,
It's-
Alex, I didn't know he was here.
It's a cut. It's a cut. He was saying it's based
I know.
on something.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really great to hear, Miro. We're really happy to know that you're saved and our videos helped you get there. That's why we keep doing what we do here. So much appreciated. Glad to hear that. I'm going to put this video back up, and then we will get back to super chats here in a bit. So get them in now, folks, and we will go through them all. We have Joel Korytko here. This is like a super intelligent Old Testament scholar. So if you guys have like burning questions, now is the time, and Joel will give you insights that will blow your mind. So I get those super chats in now. I sold you. Don't sell down now. I already sold.
I said you haven't even let me speak. Minimum $200 each.
Minimum. All right, that's what Joel wants. Good.
In summary, after analyzing the related prophecies of Deuteronomy, the New Testament, Exodus, and Malachi,
Oh, this is my favorite part.
the following key points have been established about the identity of the foretold prophet like Moses. He will be a lawgiver, the recipient of revelation that God will place in his mouth. He will be a descendant of a nation such as the Ishmaelites and Edomites.
Nope.
He will emerge sometime after Jesus.
Nope.
He will conquer the lands between Egypt and modern-day Iraq,
Nope.
which includes the Holy Land. He will liberate the Holy Land from its occupiers, thus paving the way for the Israelites to return.
Nope.
He will make a sudden appearance at the temple.
Yep.
There is only one person in the whole of human history who fulfilled all of these criteria, the Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace.
This is what we're dealing with, Joel.
Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with. See this? See this right here? Can only be Muhammad.
It's only possible.
Okay. Real quick. Okay. Muhammad didn't speak to God face to face. So can't be him. Deuteronomy says the prophet has to be an Israelite. So can't be an Ishmaelite or an Edomite. John doesn't say that the prophet will emerge after Jesus. That is just twisting the passage and lying about it. He says Jesus is the prophet. The Torah doesn't say the future prophet must conquer land. You've inappropriately connected Exodus 23 and with Exodus 20 from the Samaritan Pentateuch that goes to Deuteronomy 18, like in the most convoluted fashion ever. Exodus 23 refers to specific people groups that were supposed to be moved out of the land, which happened under Joshua. Not even entirely, because they were still there through Judges and that whole issue there. And of course, the final one, the temple didn't exist in Muhammad's time. You had a temple mount with no temple. Muhammad didn't visit the temple. This doesn't work. Like, just look at how they have to stretch and lie about these passages to make them be about Muhammad. This is dawah. And like, I'm sorry, Than, but your brain might hurt after this, but this is what they do.
I think Than checked out a long time ago.
Than, are you okay? Than, do you hear us?
I'm processing.
Are you okay? Do we need to call a doctor?
It's just, I feel like I'm a broken record, man. It's like I'm trying to find the most charitable way to look at this and interpret this and steelman it in my head, and it's like I'm frustrated because I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really just classic proof text thing, right? Like, I mean, everybody does this to a degree, but this is an egregious case for sure.
So Joel, you're not convinced?
Not yet. We got more.
There's more, yeah.
Hey, I try to be open to most things, so let's hear it.
Yeah, let's. I'm gonna do a couple super chats here just to catch up. I'll study it more. I'm curious if emotion and intuition are separate processes, and if how the Holy Spirit informs your intuition, trying to determine wise decision making, and if intuition plays into that. Okay, this was an earlier question for me.
Back in 2 seconds.
Yeah. So, yeah, intuition is not emotion. Emotions and intuitions are separate processes. Intuitions are like conscious states you sort of have. Ruche Ferlando gives an example. Like, he has an intuition that there is somebody in Vancouver. It's like a conscious experiential state. That's not an emotion. That's just something you have as like as a starting point. And until proven otherwise, you're set to go on your intuitions. That's what I would say. So maybe look at what Ruche Ferlando says about intuitions, Iron Eyes. That might be a good place to start. You guys are wrong. The divinely inspired texts of the original Old Testament prove and undeniably predict the Prophet Muhammad. Alas, they were eaten by a goat. You got me, Russian spy. Yes, just like the extended Surah 33 was eaten by goats after Muhammad died. Have you heard that story, guys? About this story? There was apparently there was a Surah, I think it's 33, that was originally much longer, and then Muhammad's wives accidentally let a goat eat it, and that. I'm told that in that, I forget exactly where it's stated, but in that surah, the companions go to Muhammad and they go, what do we do if a woman hires a man to work for her? How do we know they're not sleeping together? And Muhammad had a genius idea how to solve that. I need to watch Stan's reaction as I do this. Okay. Muhammad's way to make sure that she was not cheating with that hired guy was she needs to breastfeed him a couple of times, and then he will be like a son to her, and they obviously won't be having an affair. So, yeah, that part of the sewer got conveniently eaten by a goat by Muhammad's wealthy wives after he died. I don't understand how that could happen.
That's bizarre. That's not in an extant text, right? Just like a reference somewhere.
That's in, I believe it's in a hadith. Or it might be in the Sirah. I don't remember exactly, but I remember hearing this. Yeah, that's all. Wow. The whole issue of it when we say it was eaten by a goat. Yeah, that was that's what a reference to.
A goat ate my homework. Yep.
That's the time I would be like, listen, I totally get what you were doing there. I'm not touching that. Stop trying to think about the logic. Stop trying to think. It's not going to make sense. Okay, it's Muhammad we're talking.
I'm not touching it.
Nope.
The NLT translates Genesis 6:3 as saying, in the future, their normal lifespans will be no more than 120 years. Is this a good translation? No. Doesn't say in the future. So the NLT is trying to just capture the meaning, and it's taking one of the interpretations and pretending it's part of the text, which is not a very good thing to do. That's the NLT for you. I wouldn't use it. That's one of the main reasons I wouldn't use it. That kind of crap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great translation. I mean, they're taking some liberties there with an interpretation that's not inherent in the text. It's an in what we have in Hebrew. But it's a way to take it. But I wouldn't say it's great.
Mm-hmm. I read that Caliph Ali, I believe he's the fourth caliph, that's Muhammad's. Forget his relation to Muhammad. He wanted Aisha executed, but Muhammad refused. Do contemporary Muslim apologists ever address this? I'm not sure. This sounds like a Shia Sunni divide because the Shia, I believe, will blame Aisha for the death of Muhammad, and Ali was like against her. It may depend on what hadith you're looking at. I don't remember any Muslim apologists addressing this, but most of the ones we're going to deal with are Sunni, because that's like 80 to 85% of Muslims, maybe even 90. I can't remember the exact number, but it's so like, and most Sunni consider Shia heretical. So it's like we've not had a lot of time to address that. This sounds like some sort of Shia Sunni divide issue, and I don't think, and if Sunni apologists address it, it may be in some amount of reference to Shia, but I do not remember a lot of this off the top of my head right now. I'd have to look it up.
Did I hear you correctly and say that one of those two groups blames the death of Muhammad on Aisha?
Yes, the Shia will say that Aisha killed Muhammad, like poisoned. Some do, as far as I remember. Yeah, and then the Sunni will say it was a Jewish woman at Khaybar, because Muhammad had in the Sirah, Muhammad had just slaughtered the Jews at Khaybar, and then he went in and enslaved all the women. And then this one woman whose family was just slaughtered says, "Let me make you a beautiful lamb meal for you, Muhammad." And Muhammad, being the genius that he was like, "Sure." And then he got poisoned and died like a year later from that.
A year later from the poison.
That's a long time for food poisoning, or for poison. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the story is like he realized halfway through, so he didn't get like the full extent of the poison, and it slowly, painfully killed him. Is what the story goes. Yeah. I mean, we're not saying
these things.
Listen, you open up the world of the Islamic sources, you find all sorts of crazy stuff in there, and you're just kind of going, "What are they?" Yeah, it's crazy. So let's I jumped ahead a little bit because he just sort of repeated all these lines, and let's just get to his final argument here.
And if all of this evidence is not enough, even the name of the foretold prophet like Moses is alluded to in a related prophecy in the book of Haggai, which mentions, "And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, and in this place will I give peace." Here Haggai foretold that God's house, the temple, will be filled with glory and peace when the one who Israel eagerly desires finally arrives.
Okay. Got to be someone before 70 AD, because there's no temple. Can't be Muhammad.
The Hebrew word translated as desire, himdat, happens to have the same Semitic root as the Arabic name Ahmad, which is one of Muhammad's names. The historian Godfrey Higgins wrote on this linguistic connection, "Here Muhammad is expressly foretold by Haggai and by name. There is no interpolation here. There is no evading this clear text and its meaning."
Convinced,
What?
Joel, because some guy in the 17 or 1600s said so?
No, I am not. Yeah. You sent me a text about this argument, beforehand. And yeah, so I looked it up a little bit. Well, first off, this guy is not a historian.
Yeah.
Not at all. He's actually just like some esoteric, kind of writer. He was a lawyer. He's not a historian. He thought all religions kind of went back to one religion, to one thought. And so to cite him as an authority that's not credible. And cite him as a historian, he's not a historian. So whether or not he thought that this verse referred to Muhammad, which it doesn't, we can get into that. I think you can show that even grammatically, it's not possible in the Hebrew. That this is not someone you should be citing, and it doesn't really matter what he says on this particular subject. But I don't.
It's very Islamophobic of you, just so you know.
No, it's just not true.
No, that's Islamophobic. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, I hope not. Truth is truth. But it, yeah, I mean, to say that this, I don't know. Does the video keep going, or do we want to? Should I just talk about this? What do you want to do?
Let's play a little bit more, and if it's not, she just quotes a couple other people. We can hear them out, and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
The Orthodox Jewish Bible even goes so far as to make an explicit connection between the Himdat of Haggai and Israel's coming Messiah. Haggai says the Messiah is the desired of all nations.
Okay, that doesn't help you, because Muhammad is not the Messiah in Islam. It's Jesus.
I was about to say that
The
doesn't make any
old-
sense because they said the Messiah is not Jesus, the prophet. Or sorry, they said
Right.
Messiah is Jesus and Muhammad is the prophet.
Listen,
So that
you can't just assume it's gonna make sense, Joel. I mean, it's like he didn't remember what he said at the beginning of the video. So this is like minutes later when he was doing this. You can't expect him to remember what he said earlier in the video, okay?
yeah, that's
only
wild.
way that critics of Islam can get around this linguistic connection is by going to absurd lengths. To illustrate this, the bishop John Parkhurst made the following claim. From this linguistical root, the pretended Prophet Muhammad had his name. But whether this was his original appellation or whether he assumed it after he set up for the Messiah of the Jews, the desire of all nations, I cannot find. We can see that even though Parkhurst rejected Muhammad's prophethood, he could not deny the linguistic connection between Himdat and Muhammad, going so far as to argue for a conspiracy theory by claiming that Muhammad might have adopted his name for the sole purpose of fulfilling Haggai's prophecy. In response, there is a serious double standard at play here.
Okay, let's stop there because
Oh.
he's going to make one more argument, which is going to say, well, the Christians will look at things like Jesus of Nazareth and they'll go to the prophecy of like the root of Jesse, the Nizar or Nazar, however you say that word, of Jesse,
Nature,
yeah, Netzer, and they'll make that connection. And here's the problem. We're not using those. At least us three are using that to argue the truth of Christianity. We understand that's typology. Muslims are not using this as typology. They're saying these are literal prophecies of Muhammad. You have to interpret them that way. So his comparison to Christians doing typology in like the New Testament doesn't work. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, if it's the verse in Matthew where it says that he shall be called a Nazarene, yeah, it would be typological in that way. And it also could just be that Matthew, who seems to be quite aware of Hebrew, because when Matthew doesn't rely on Mark for Septuagint citations, he'll often seem to translate like more based on the Hebrew. So he seems to be aware of Hebrew. And so Hebrew Semitic people love puns. So if you read the Old Testament in Hebrew has tons of puns all over the place. And so to say that, oh, the root of Jesse, the Netzer, the branch, that sounds like Nazar, not like from Nazareth, that they share the same consonantal roots that rhyme, right? Or that are they're homophonic in that way. And so that's just a pun. It's a pun. And that kind of thing happens all the time in the Hebrew Bible. So it's no surprise that you would see that in Matthew as well, if that's what's going on, if he is referencing Isaiah 11. That kind of pun is very much well within the biblical literature that we, especially the Old Testament. And so someone who's Semitic would do that kind of thing. There's way bigger problems than that, though. Like this argument. Well, first off, he's saying linguistically, Ahmad and Hemdat are related. And that very well could be true, but that doesn't.
It's just three consonants.
Yeah, but even if it were, even let's agree. I don't know Arabic, so I wouldn't be able to tell you the etymology of that specific word or the history behind it. But let's just assume it's right. Like that still is irrelevant, right? If I have a friend named Petra, that doesn't mean that when Jesus says, Peter, on this Petra, I will build my church, that suddenly that my friend Petra that's what it refers to back then. It's like, it's just the same word or same root. It doesn't matter. Right?
Wait. How Arabic wasn't even like a thing.
Dan, stop using logic here.
Like early? So what do you mean?
Well, it like the Arab. What this is where my ignorance here might show. But like, is the Arabic that you find in the Quran the same as what the Arabic would have been at the time of this prophecy?
I think it would have been similar. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not
I don't
going
know
to
the
say
history
that.
of Arabic.
No,
so
I think it would have
don't know
been
how the language
similar, but
developed.
yeah, it would be similar.
Yeah.
But anyway, did you want to talk about the Hebrew grammar, Joel?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll share my screen again if that works for you. A couple things I could mention here. All right, you got the screen there?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't make sense that the desire or the treasure of all the nations refers to a person. First off, Muhammad, at very definitely not. First off, we're in a prophecy that's about the temple. Haggai is a prophet who is trying to spur people on to rebuild the temple, and so there's nothing in this about this being a messianic prophecy. Maybe some later rabbis took it that way. That's fine. But that's not in the actual original context. The original context is about the temple and the nations bringing in glory to the temple. And you see that if you just read the context, that's what it is about. So it's not a messianic prophecy. Doesn't work, which is actually a difference then between Isaiah 11 that we just talked about, which is talking about a future king. This is not even talking about a king. This is talking about goods, right? The treasure of all nations. And so this word here, I have it down here, hemdat, and then it's hemdat if it's in construct form here. So here it is down here. So the problem to say that this is referring to Muhammad, if we were somehow to assume that, is well, there's two things. One is that this verb here that comes right before it, y'all don't know Hebrew, but this is a plural form verb. And so a plural form verb, in the Hebrew language, the inflection, the way that the language changes is different than English. In English, you don't add things if you're like, for when you have a verb, they went to the store, he went to the store, like we still just say went. But in other languages, you will have inflections and patterns of declension that change the word so that you know it's a plural, or that's doing something, or it's a singular that's doing something. And so here we have a plural verb, ubau, and they will enter. So plural concept, and then it's the hemdat kol hagoyim. So the treasure of all the nations. So it seems like one possibility here is that hemdat is actually a singular, and yet it has a plural noun because it's a collective noun, like the treasures. So like people is a collective noun. Many things comprised in a singular term, right? And so here, hemdat could be a collective noun, and so that's why it's a plural verb here. But here's the important part: a name wouldn't do this. If you said Muhammad and I will shake all the nations so that so Muhammad of all the nations will come. The will come wouldn't be in the plural. That doesn't work grammatically. A singular person's name and not a collective noun would not be the verb would not be plural. On top of that, there's actually a textual variant here, or a textual problem here, where hemdat might actually be a plural itself, as in treasures. And so I have here Halot, which is one of the kind of most revered lexicons, dictionaries for Hebrew. And if you go down here to Haggai 2:7, it says you should to be read as hemudot, which is a plural, this next word here, which just means treasures, precious things. And so it's very possible that the plural verb here is actually representing or giving us an indication that this should be read as treasures and not treasure. So in both cases, if it's either of those, the plural verb still makes it it's impossible. It makes no sense for it to say that this is a name of a person. It's about treasures that'll be brought in. That's already what the context says. So even from the Hebrew grammar, it's not possible.
It's very Islamophobic of you to point that out, but I'll allow it, so it's okay.
There we go.
Yeah. This is what we're doing. But he's convinced because some guy 400, 300, 200 years ago said, "Oh, it must be Muhammad, therefore it is." But
did that make sense? My explanation? I know that was a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, made total sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no way this can be Muhammad. But again, this is what they do. Oh yeah, I wanted to share my screen really fast because they'll do this. They'll cherry pick. We deal with this all the time. I just go to my slides. I mean, we see the same construction elsewhere. Hemdat, 1 Samuel 9:20, talking about Saul, and for whom is all that is desirable in Israel? Is it not for you and for all your father's house? So if Hemdat is referring to Muhammad, and then he is also from the house of Saul, the kingship that God rejected, and that would also make him an Israelite. So that would be odd. Apparently also Muhammad was carried off by King Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon. Do you know that as well? And also he's apparently a god that an ancient pagan god, because he's talking about the lawless man of Daniel, and he will pay no attention to the gods of his fathers, or the one Hemdot by women shall pay no attention to any other god, for he shall magnify himself above all. You see? So why does Hemdot, let me put that up because it's just above the live chat there so people can see what I'm talking about. Why is it Muhammad or Ahmed in Haggai 2, but not in these other verses when it's the same construction? It doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah. And even if, like you say, oh, well, the one's a prophecy about something, it's still, like I said, for the reasons I outlined, it doesn't make sense in that context.
No, nothing makes sense in Dawa. All right, I'll get to super chats. I'm just going to finish this video to show what he's trying to do here, and then we will jump into the question. So get them in now, and we will go through those.
To help illustrate this, let's contrast Jesus in the Bible. Consider the following passage in the New Testament. And he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, that he would be called a Nazarene. Here, the New Testament makes the claim that the prophets of the Old Testament foretold that Jesus would be a Nazarene, meaning a person who is related to the town of Nazareth. Christians have scoured the Old Testament in search of such a passage. The closest they can find is the following passage in the book of Isaiah. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots, a branch will bear fruit. Christians argue that the Hebrew word used here for branch, netzer, relates to the New Testament's mention of Nazarene, and that this Old Testament passage is therefore the source of the New Testament quotation. The problem with this claim is that there is no linguistic connection between Nazarene and netzer. As the biblical scholar Giza Vermesh explains,
Okay.
some scholars
Yeah, we get it. There's no connect. There's no. He's missing the point, as we already noted. We're not saying this is proof of Jesus. This is the Hebrew pun, and it's a typology. They want to say the prophecies that they say are prophecies like Haggai 2, Deuteronomy 18:18. They want to say these are literal prophecies about Muhammad. What Matthew's doing here is typology, not literal fulfillment. He doesn't understand the difference. And I did a video on this back in January, pointing out a lot of what Matthew is doing is typology, just playing on words.
Yeah, typology does happen a lot for sure. This one might just be a play on words, even. Yeah, and that he's just associating the Isaiah 11. So yeah, I mean, typology could be a way you refer to that. Sure.
All right. Well, if that didn't convince you, Joel, I do want to give you one more chance to find Muhammad in the Pentateuch. You ready? I'm not going to play a video. I'm just going to read you another one of their go-to passages. Okay. So let me read this to you. Then I have a question. Okay. You too as well, Than. Okay. So this is clearly a prophecy of Muhammad. You ready for this? This is the blessing with which Moses, the man of God, blessed the people of Israel before his death. He said, "The Lord came from Sinai, and he dawned from Seir upon us, and he shone forth from Mount Paran. He came from the 10,000s of holy ones with flaming fire at his right hand." So, Joel, my question after hearing that, are you ready to take your Shahada now and convert to Islam? Or do you want to wait a few days to think about it?
I'll need a few days. But what on earth are you referring to? I have no idea
what are you talking about? I just gave you a clear prophecy of Muhammad. How did you not hear it? Come on, Joel. This is obviously about Muhammad.
Sorry, I've actually been faking it. I'm not a scholar. I don't know how to read Hebrew. I've been making this whole thing up. Please let me go.
Okay, let me explain to you what they're doing. They say this is a prophecy of the three major prophets. The Lord comes from Sinai is about Moses. Dawn from Seir is about Jesus. He shone forth from Mount Paran is clearly about Muhammad, because Ishmael, after he went out from Abraham, went to the desert of Paran. So clearly, Paran is a reference to Muhammad. And I'm not making this up. This is one of their go-to passages to argue Muhammad is in the Bible.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it's just that explanation doesn't understand poetic parallelism or the way that Hebrew poetry works. You've got three lines that are all one line and two lines which are further descriptive of that first line, describing the Sinai event, which is pretty clearly what it's talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
when I had David Schreiner on, he said it's theophonic language. Yahweh is on the move here. It's not and my favorite part is they say it's Seir is referring to Jesus because it's closer to Jerusalem. Like, but why not say like Mount Zion or Moriah? Like, why is it like they're literally saying, well, Seir is further north, it's getting a little closer to Jerusalem, so we can say that's about Jesus. It's like, dude, are you want us to take you seriously?
No, it's all just part of like the Yahweh from the south language, right? Where Yahweh, there are different texts and Judges here, I believe Habakkuk as well, where it talks about like Yahweh coming out of the south initially and referring to an earlier time, perhaps what you see in Exodus, perhaps also stuff we see of the name Yahweh potentially being in that area as well. Yeah.
When I first heard Deuteronomy 33, my first thought was, oh, he obviously quoted the wrong passage. He didn't realize it because that was so dumb. There's no way this could be about Muhammad, but they're dead serious. They will say that is a prophecy that's talking about Moses and referring to the coming of Jesus and then Muhammad. Than, are you okay?
How is this? I don't know, man. I don't know. I honestly just don't know what to say.
It's okay. We know. It's all bad. We know. So, all right, let's get to some super chats. I'll prioritize the one.
Do you need a hug?
What?
Do you need a hug?
I want to go lift.
Yeah. Listen, as I said earlier, they're desperate to find him anywhere because the Quran says he should be there, and the Quran can't be wrong because that would mean Islam is false.
Yeah. I just don't like how this makes me feel, Mike. It makes me feel frustrated and angry. And I don't want to think that I don't want to think about Dawa people. I don't want to think Dawa people are automatically lying. But like
they are.
I'm just being honest about how I feel. Right.
Do you think they're lying, or that they just don't bother looking in context and it's just somebody else told them so that they repeat the same thing?
I used to think that, Joel. And then just you run into enough instances where sooner or later you're like, there's no way this is just a constant accident. And maybe lying isn't the right word. Maybe sometimes people are just like so caught up in trying to prove their religious beliefs that they're just so passionate about them that they're failing to see past some of these things. I don't know, but I'm just saying I don't know that I like how it's making me feel about this. That's all.
Listen,
I don't want to feel that way.
I think there are some that are just gullible, but I mean a lot of the main Dawa guys, they have to know that this is just crap. But again, the Quran cannot be wrong. So I think it's more cognitive dissonance. Like the Quran has to be right. Muhammad has to be in there, so we have to fish. And they'll go through the Bible. Anytime you see the word Quran, it's got to be about Muhammad. Anytime you see the word 10,000, that's about Muhammad too, because Muhammad had an army of 10,000. Therefore, this is the crap they do. It's like they just have to go through and fish, try to find something, because they desperately need Muhammad in there. And it's just, to anyone who's not a Muslim, you look at this and you're just like, seriously? Like you actually think this will help you? Like this is pure desperation to the highest level. At least with Christianity, you can say, yeah, they're clearly predicting a coming Messiah. It's in some of the later passages. You go to Deuteronomy 18:18, sure, but like they're clearly predicting some future Israelite messianic figure. There's nothing in the Bible, nothing about some Gentile prophet who's supposed to come after the Messiah. But that's what they need in Islam, so they desperately try to make it work. Fascinating, isn't it?
Powerful
stuff. So, all right, super chats, and I will prioritize the ones that are donating more. So if you want to get those in now. Do you know that that drug PSA with the egg that gets cracked into a pan? That's a good illustration of what happens to people's brains on Dawa. Yeah, that's a good point. This is your brain. This is your brain on Dawa. You know, it's the old drug thing. Like, this is your brain on drugs. And it's got cracked fried egg, you know.
Yeah.
Have any of you been to the Dome of the Rock? And if so, were Muslims and Jews strictly separated? I understand the King of Jordan manages the Dome and the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. I have not, so I do not know. I have not been to Israel. I have not been able to afford that.
No, I haven't been specifically to the Dome of the Rock. No.
Yeah. If you'd like for us to go to Israel, please donate below inspiringphilosophy.com/donate. We need to get Than fully funded, and then maybe we can go film some videos in Israel together. But,
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, it would be amazing. We could go to the places where where Jesus healed the demon possessed Gerasene man, and I can be like, listen, we're here, we're demon, heal a Gerasene, a demon possessed man, and I don't have a demon possessed man, but I have the second best thing, a Greek,
Me,
and I can pull you out. Nissim Amzalag argues that the Garden of Eden narrative is a metaphor for the emergence of the Bronze Age. In your opinion, what is the best evidence against this? I used his work for my master's exam.
Yeah, I actually was I was working on a paper right now, just a re-edit of it, and Amzalag was someone I cited this morning. I don't know Amzalag's argument for that. I haven't read through that work, so I'd have to look into it. That's interesting. Yeah,
my problem is a lot of this is just sort of like parallelomania, like Dennis MacDonald finding Homer in the Gospels so much. Like, you can make anything match if you cherry pick out the similarities and just run with it. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe there's some hints to that, but to like say that's exactly what the author is doing, I think we're going too far.
For emergence of the Bronze Age. So like we're talking like early, the Bronze Age goes way back. Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see if you're thinking like the way like pre-agriculture, like I know there already was agriculture, but like less of that and urbanization and coming in with the Bronze Age. Like I guess you could see that innocent state to the non-innocent. Like, I guess maybe, I don't know. I'd have to read it. Honestly, sorry, I can't comment more unless I actually see the arguments.
Mm-hmm. So the super chat from your channel over there. So you guys should subscribe to Joel. Just click his channel is in the title, so just click on it and subscribe. Hey Joe, I love your content on Romans 9, and I love seeing the connections between the Old and New Testament. Thank you guys for your ministries.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, lots of Romans 9 on my channel. That's what everybody wants to talk about, but I don't.
So if you want Joel to keep talking about Romans 9, put in some more super chats, and that will make
it. You say Romans 9?
Romans 9.
Yes. Don't you know Paul was from
Didn't
Asia?
you know that the word Romans and Ramens is actually so connected that the book of Romans actually predicted ramen noodles?
Ramen.
And you know ramen? Do you know ramen is another name for Muhammad? Yeah, therefore it's Muhammad.
There we go.
Muhammad liberated the Holy Land for the Israelites. So is Muhammad a Zionist? Someone needs to enlighten Hamas about the powerful truth. Yeah, this is actually an argument we have made, because if you go through the Quran, there are clear verses where Allah promises the land of Israel to the Jews. And so we've made the point, like, why are you guys trying to kick the Jews out? Why are you saying from the river to the sea? Your God said this belongs to the Jews. What are you doing? So yeah, that's another problem for them that they don't want to talk about. I'm going to jump to this super chat. Same commenter. Really appreciate all the super chats. Upholder of the good. Very generous super chat.
Thank you. Yeah.
Really, really appreciate it so much. So we'll prioritize this one because it just came in. IP and Than, if you need a break from Dawa and atheist absurdities, we always do. You could always go after the crazy, more Hebrew roots content. Jim Staley is not only a wacky dude in the world for sure, and take it from an ex-Hebrew roots guy, this movement is still expanding. Thank you for reminding me of Jim Staley. Jim Staley knows who I am. He don't like me. We've done some videos on him on the channel. We responded to his videos on trying to argue Christmas is pagan. We should do that, Than. Especially for this very generous supporter here.
Yeah,
I'm all down to do some more Jim Staley stuff, because that guy is crazy. I spoke to him on the phone once. I think he was trying to convince me not to respond to his documentary on Christmas. And I told him, listen, I'm going to respond if you make historical errors. And then he did. And so we did that. But yeah, we could go back to some Jim Staley stuff.
I'm down.
Yeah. My brother-in-law, David Wilbur, who is still kind of in that movement, but he used to He doesn't work for Jim anymore, but he kind of pushes a more intellectual side of it all. But yeah, we could look at some Jim Staley stuff because trust me, I'm fully aware of Jim Staley. I knew about Jim Staley probably before I started my channel because of connections, and was thoroughly unconvinced by his stuff. But yeah, he's one of those guys, Joel, that argues that Christians should be keeping the Jewish feasts, the Sabbath, the dietary laws, all that crap.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm totally down to do that for sure. Let's see here. Muhammad actually did forsake his father's gods. Yes, he did. But that verse in Daniel 11 would be that this coming lawless man would forsake Muhammad of women, which would make no sense in the context as well. And it kind of puts it as like a list of like a pagan god kind of thing. Like that's what the context would suggest. Aaron says, if you squint your eyes and stand on your head, you find Muhammad in the Bible. You see. It's true. This is true. You have to. That's the only way to do it.
I was trying to squint my eyes really hard to find it in the majority of this video, and I still couldn't. So I guess I have to do handstands while we do these streams now.
You got to be drunk.
No, I have to stand. No, I have to stand on my head.
Yeah, and drunk. I would add to Aaron's super chat. You got to be drunk to find Muhammad in the Bible.
I can't stand on my head. I'm gonna have to work my neck muscles out a little bit more.
Victory in Christ says Matthew 16:28 isn't the transfiguration or ascension, right? No one died before those events took place. Jesus said some wouldn't taste death before it. If I remember correctly, Matthew 16, doesn't he put that right before the transfiguration?
He does,
yes. Yeah. Dale Allison says Mark, Luke, and Matthew all interpret this as a saying about the transfiguration because they all word it that way. So, yeah.
They all place the story that way, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And Jesus saying some taste death, that would fit with his exaggerated hyperbolic style of speaking. Like, get the log out of your own eye before you get the speck out of someone else's eye. He could totally just be using the same kind of like extreme language. You're not even going to taste death before you see this, and then they see the transfiguration. So, yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think this generally the same question came up in our last stream that we did together, and I said there's a lot of different takes on this. Mike Burr did a recent Substack, I think, on it, and he also mentioned just how it could also be the crucifixion as the point where he becomes lifted up and exalted as the Son of Man in his death, and so no one dies before that. It's an option.
Yeah. As an Old Testament, he also says, as an Old Testament professor, what does Yahweh riding on the clouds signify in the Old Testament? Thanks. That's a question.
Yeah, it's a common. The Cloud Rider is a common title. You see it used of Baal in the Baal cycle. Yeah, I think Yahweh does in fact take that that language on, uses the same language in some of the Psalms of the Cloud Rider. And so this is common in the ancient world where you take on attributes of other deities and say you're better, essentially. And so there's no reason why that wouldn't happen with Yahweh as well. And so I think it's enthronement, kingship. That seems to be part of what it's related to. You see that even with Daniel, the Son of Man coming on the clouds. Yep. I think the idea of on the clouds is probably to do with enthronement and kingship and taking that place. Yeah, and it's also at the same time saying that Yahweh is better than Baal and others.
That's a very, very important question that I must answer in the nerdiest way possible. Why did Frodo have to go to the Undying Lands? Well, let me explain something to you, sir. See, when Frodo set out from Bree with Strider, who is known as Eragon, Eleazar, the king of Aragon, of Arnor and Gondor, when they set out, they made it to Weathertop. And there, the Nazgul found him, and they stabbed him. And the poison from the blade, Frodo felt that every year on the anniversary of being stabbed. And so the only cure was for him to go to the Undying Lands, where he would be healed of this pain he suffers every year. So this is why he had to go to the Undying Lands. I mean, also there could be some hints in Tolkien's work about just the trauma and the stress of carrying the ring and how horrible that was. So he goes to the Undying Lands to be healed of all the pain he suffered in being the ring bearer itself. So yes, hope that answers your question. Any nerdy Lord of the Rings questions, I will always answer for you. That is my promise. Scholars admit the death burial, and resurrection. I'm not sure what you mean, sir. You can clarify, but I'm not sure what this is getting at. So, but appreciate the super chat. God bless you guys. I just started engaging Muslims in comments a few weeks ago. Already so bored of their nonsense. How do you keep at it? Listen, here's what happened to me, Art. Basically, you snap and you either go crazy or you just laugh at their stuff. So I was debating with Muslims on TikTok, I think in 2022, with them trying to push this crap like Muhammad in the Bible. He's in Isaiah. He's in Song of Solomon. It's like, and I think I just snapped, and that's when I started doing more comedy videos. After that, people noticed because if you're gonna look at the crazy stuff, you just got to make fun of it and make jokes, and that'll help get you through it. So you just make fun of it. I think one of the guys
He
I was
said it
debating,
here.
like
He snapped.
snapped, like
Mike snapped.
one of the guys. He was going through so fast through the Song of Solomon. He quoted a verse in like Song of Solomon 1 where it says, "I am dark like the tents of Kedar." And he's like, this is clearly about Muhammad. And then I like stopped and I looked at it and I went like, this is the woman talking. It says right after this that Solomon has taken me into his chambers. And I said, like, what is Muhammad doing with Solomon in the king's chambers? Like, so I think you just got to laugh at this stuff because the way they try to argue for Muhammad in the Bible is hilarious. And, you know,
do these videos get lots of views? I know the one that we're looking at got like over 50,000. Do these kind of things actually like get traction?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Not only that, if you go to the comments, it's all like, this can't be more clear. May Allah guide the sincere people to Islam. This video made me cry. Joel, this video made him cry. How could you not convert to Islam?
Interesting.
The only problem with his channel is that they're not on videos. Yes, they'll point to Isaiah 42. Yes, this is what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not a good video. It's not proving their point, unfortunately.
What are you gonna do? This is dawah. Mike, here's one thing I want to say. One more about that as well. If I were to make a video, Joel, saying that like Jesus is predicted in like, I don't know, like Genesis 4. Okay, no, let's say I did the Genesis 5 thing, like, you know, that Ken Hovind does. Like, he takes the names and he goes, like, all the meanings of these names are man-appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down preaching, you know, that argument. If I have done that, how many Christians do you think would call me out for that?
A lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've called out Christians for doing that. This is because in Christianity, we'll try our best. We're not perfect, but we'll try to call out our side when they're making errors. It's not the same in Islam. Oftentimes you'll see them push this nonsense over and over again. And like very few, it's like 1% are saying, I don't know about this. Like the majority are like, no, this is fact. Muhammad's in the Bible. I swear this is the dawah. We have to go with it. So it's a completely different cultural shift, honestly.
Interesting.
Mike, I was always wondering, are you the only one in your family that does philosophy? Yes, as far as I can tell. In terms of if you've gotten a degree, you're the only one too?
Yeah, it annoys everybody because then I always ask annoying questions and people are like, stop it.
My family doesn't ever really ask me anything other than my parents. But like my extended family, they don't care. Like they'll occasionally go like, so how's the channel going? Oh, great. Can you pass the potatoes? You know, like that's about it.
Oh yeah.
That's my extent. Yes. I mean, it's fine. It's great because then I can, you know, decompress and talk about other things. Stop this stuff, you know. Are you a soft libertarian or a compatibilist? Soft libertarian, I'd say. It's probably where I land because I'm more of I'm an idealist, so I would probably land in there. Yeah. Dan, what are you?
It depends on what you mean by the word libertarian.
Depends on what you mean.
Well, like it does, because if by libertarian you mean, you know, I think that if by libertarian you mean something other than like source accounts of freedom, then like I'm not.
Right?
Be a smartass. Seriously.
I'm just trying to be with my. Sorry, I won't be precise. I'll just say soft libertarian, not hard libertarian. No, that came out wrong. Muscles. That's where I was. Just
Crazy
go.
how Muslims do some 1984 doublethink fishing for verses about Muhammad in the Bible in between the times that they're calling it corrupt. Dude, man, I've seen them go like in the same breath. Like John's the like John is saying Muhammad's the paraclete, and then you go to this other place and like, oh, but that was corrupted, and it's like it's like in the same conversation I've seen them do that. It's crazy, but that's what we're dealing with. That's dawah, folks. So Joel,
Yeah.
any thoughts on converting to Islam?
Not today, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I didn't. That was not very compelling. Honestly, it's lame that these kind of things get so high views on YouTube, and that these kind of things are just kind of spreading. Honestly, I think we showed pretty clearly this is misinformation. It's just not dealing with the text at all. In what it originally said. So that's the way the internet works. So I guess we call this a public service, but like I said at the beginning, my brain cells have definitely the count has gone down, and they were already quite low. So this is going to be a problem.
And I'll remind people that because Muhammad's not in the Bible, or I'm sorry, because Muhammad's not in the Bible, Surah 7:157 and Surah 61:6 are false. Therefore, Islam is false. This is why they put so much stock in this, because if they're wrong, the uncreated speech of Allah is wrong, which that cannot be, because they have a higher standard than we do when it comes to scripture. It's not just inspired. For them, this is the uncreated speech of Allah, and it is wrong right here, because what can we see? Yeah.
Huh. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, that it's making more sense now why this would be so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Muslim scholars on the live with God Logic. Hilarious. That's right. We're going to close this up. So everyone go over to God Logic. Tell him I said hi. You can guys go hang out with him. But yeah, we're going to close this up. Tomorrow we've got a video coming out. I've spent a couple years, researching and getting together. It's called How Christianity Created Human Rights. That'll be live on the channel tomorrow. I've gone through a lot of work on that. It's part of my big series on the benefits of Christianity. And that one is currently live for donors right now, so you can watch it right now if you want, or you can wait for tomorrow and it'll be live. But yeah, that's what's coming out. And then later this month, Than has a video coming out debunking the idea the New Testament teaches adoptionist Christology. So that'll be out later as well.
I do have that.
That'll be cool.
Out.
Yeah. Joel, anything you want to promote before we close this out?
I don't have a lot of time for YouTube. Can't say I got much coming down the line. Still, it'd be nice if people came over if they appreciate the stuff I do. Come check it out. I'll probably do another one on the Canaanite conquest, just kind of doing one without the KIP content that we did the other month or whatever it was. And I have other videos in the works. It's slow going, and I'm busy. I'm class prepping and stuff for next month.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And one more thing, just want to say thank you to this super chat that came in. We'll be praying for you, Miro. We're really happy to hear that our videos helped you become a Christian. Means a lot to us, and we're always happy to see that. So thanks, everybody. Check out the video. I'm probably going to be live on my channel. Than will probably be there as well with David Wood. We're going to looking at a Muhammad Hijab video because he's popular right now for losing that case with Douglas Murray. So I was like, let's jump on that wave. I mean, why not?
Muhammad Hijab's the guy with the Muta marriage, right?
Yes, his hotel wife, yes, that he abused, and she came out in public because of all the horrible things he did.
Oh man, I'll have to get my rage out before the stream then.
Yeah, we're not gonna be talking about that. We'll be talking about another thing he did.
Oh, I know. The connection's there though.
Yeah. So, all right, everyone, go over to God Logic stream. Tell him I said hi, and we'll see you guys Monday for sure. Thanks for coming on the channel again, Joel. Remember to subscribe to Joel below. You made it to the end of this video, which means this message matters to you. If you want to see more content like this reaching people for Christ, you can help make it happen. Your support makes these videos possible. Click the link below and donate today. And if you want to go even deeper, consider joining our Patreon community. You'll get early access to videos, behind-the-scenes content, and a place to connect with others passionate about this mission.